Hello Libra, Amanda here. Welcome to Unseen Hands Healing. This is going to be your small story reading for January. So for those of you who are new, these readings, I choose a book off the shelf, I turn to a random passage, and I will read that passage to you, and then we will look to the cards to expand upon the story and see more specifically how that might be relating to something you're going through right now. Okay, so Libra, today, Hilma Af Klint wants to speak to you. This is a book collecting all of the artists, as it says here, notes and methods that were written in notebooks. At the turn of the century, when Hilma was creating, for those of you who don't know, Hilma is a Swedish artist. I'll show you a picture. She's quite a striking person. There's Hilma. Hi Hilma, thank you for being here. And then I will read you just a short bit about her. Af Klint devoted her life and her work to an exploration of an invisible realm. She strongly believed in a spiritual dimension and became a part of the growing movement of forward-thinking members of Swedish society who were interested in spiritual investigation. So a big part of her painting work was she believed spiritually channeled. She was channeling something higher that was helping her to essentially paint what was coming through. Okay, I'm just trying to give you maybe a quick example of her work for those of you who may be new to Hilma's work. I highly, highly, highly recommend taking a look. She works a lot with sacred geometry, and she works in very abstract and symbolic ways. In fact, she kind of created her own language throughout these notebooks. Okay, so the passage that wants to speak to you here, I'll just show you. Make sure you can see that. Some wicked stuff here. So let's see if I can explain this to you. It's clearly all written in Swedish. The dates here are April 12th through the 15th, 1920. April does seem to be something significant that's coming through here, so let's table that for a second. This first image, the note about this is tenderness of thought and toughness of thought. Tenderness of thought and toughness of thought. There feels to be like this tension between a tender way of thinking and how we might define like a tough way of thinking. There's a push and pull happening here, and there's a through line of this that continues. The next image down here, okay, tenderness of thought, toughness of thought, that's what this says here. And then this next image, Evernia prenastria, grows on birches, hardened thoughts. So we go from tenderness, I sort of interpret this as the tenderness of thought and the toughness of thought. Maybe it's the other way around. And then this is the hardened thoughts. This perhaps reference to a plant that grows on birch trees. Now we move to this side here. This image here. It says Cladonia, inattention, overcome by the astral power that engaged the thoughts. I'm going to say that to you again as you look at this. Inattention, overcome by the astral power that engaged the thoughts. And then finally this here, this image on the bottom, it says Peltigera. Again, I think a lot of these are her made up words. And the caption says, I need help to free captive thoughts. That's this image. I need help to free captive thoughts. So one more time, we've got tenderness of thought and toughness of thought, hardened thoughts, inattention, overcome by the astral power that engaged the thoughts, and I need help to free captive thoughts. Okay, so this whole thing is talking about your mind space very clearly here, Libra. And this makes sense. You're an air sign, right? There's what I'm picking up on, and my experience of Libra energy is this like deeply emotional being that processes all of those emotions through the mind space. And so I could see how it's very easy, and I have a Libra moon. So in my experience with this, it can be very easy to be sort of feel like you have to choose between the toughness, like being tough and having perspective and making the objective decision versus like the tenderness of the heart, this push-pull tension between the mind and the heart, and that conversation that can more often feel like a battle. That's what I'm feeling here. I'm really drawn to this, overcome by the astral power that engaged the thoughts, and just like the way that her image for that is channeled. It's sort of seems more closely evocative of the hardened thoughts to me. It's like the same image, but now we see the astral power that's coming in and creating these thoughts. That is like, essentially, this is the energetic that's at work, keeping these thoughts swirling. And I love how they're all contained in this thing that like looks like a brain or like an almond, you know, like maybe a gland or something like that. It's like, it's all contained in there, and these thoughts are swirling. I need help to free me from these captive thoughts. Now we see this white, the mind space that all these thoughts are contained in suddenly is not compartmentalized anymore. See the compartmentalization and the energetic swirling? It's like now that's all pure and blank and clear, and the energy has expanded outside this little almond, this little circle. I need help. Asking for help, Libra. I think that's what this is about. Asking for help to deal with some sort of energetic dynamic that is happening inside of your mind that is creating this feeling, this sensation of invasive thoughts or difficult thoughts, worries, fears, anxieties, perhaps, that are they seem to have some sort of control over you, or at least that's how you feel, beholden to them in some way. So now we're gonna go to cards. Let's see if we can extrapolate on what Hilma is offering us. Okay, what is this small story for Libra? Okay, spread the cards out here. They're a little big, so it's hard for me to shuffle like this. So I'm just gonna choose 3 at random for Libra. Okay. There's one more that wants to come. Okay. You know, Libra, it's like this. Let me show you all 3 cards first. Temperance, the 10 of Wands, and the 9 of Pentacles. There's a cleansing that's happening here with Temperance. This is the card of alchemy for me. And it's so interesting too, because this is the card of the unseen hands in my reading of Temperance. This angel, this work that is happening behind the scenes that we can't necessarily see tangibly with our human eyes. And that's what Hilma was directly channeling and connected to. That's what Hilma was interested in exploring through her abstract painting. And so it's interesting here that we have this perhaps unseen process, because it's all happening inside of you, of emotional release of things that have been bottled up in the background, perhaps for quite a long time. That's what I'm seeing here, Libra. All of these bottles in the background are like things that you have compartmentalized and stored away in your mental, emotional shelf, you know, or like closet, basement, maybe even for quite a long time. And now we see this like purge. We see this And this is quite emotional because, you know, there's a tear streaming out of this person's face. And this looks like a difficult process of emptying out these bottles one by one, bringing them to the foreground of your mental space, your mental awareness, and emptying out what looks to be corrosive contents. It's like I'm actually seeing this bottle as like stored away emotions. Water is emotions, stored away emotions that have sort of been fermenting in this way that they've turned like putrid or rancid. Corrosive, I think, is the more specific word, because they're beginning to like corrode in the back of your mind space. And so now things are coming to the surface and are being emptied out, pouring out that like battery acid almost. And I think it's a difficult process. I don't think this process is easy. Okay. I think it's very likely, you know, painful things from the past. Because that's what we do. We take our difficult experiences and we kind of tuck them away and we hold on to them. We put them somewhere where we don't have to see them constantly and be like re-traumatized every single day. But it seems like, Libra, you are entering some sort of moment in your life where it's time to ask for help, perhaps even divine guidance, in freeing yourself from these thoughts that are holding you captive. These thoughts that are like swirling around. This energetic astral energy could be seen as like all of that corrosive mental emotional energy swirling and fermenting and sort of like turning acidic inside of its container, and then that needing to be emptied and freed. And I think, Libra, the key is to ask for help from the unseen. Ask for help from your, you know, higher spiritual guidance, or whatever you connect to, even like the unconscious energies within you that know more than your conscious energies. It's like, okay, I need some help from the parts of me and the parts beyond me that are unseen to go through this emotional cleansing and purging process, mental emotional cleansing and purging. And then we have Saturn showing up here with the 10 of Wands with this like sense of completion. There's a 10. 10 is all about completion. 10 of Wands for me is about laying down the burdens, laying down something that you have carried, stored away for perhaps quite a long time. And maybe you're even channeling this into something creative or something work related, just because we see this person who, in my story of this card, is that this person has made an album. They finally made an album and it's come to completion. They're ready to drop it. They're ready to get it out of their internal space and into the world. And so there's something here about part of relieving yourself of the burdens of this and completing this cycle of holding on to these corrosive emotions and memories is expressing them out of yourself. You need to empty them, to get them out of your body. And so whether that's as simple as, you know, speaking them to a therapist, or like talking to a trusted friend or family member, or it could be something like channeling that into your work, channeling that into your artwork. Just, you need to get it out of you some way in order to release yourself of the heaviness of this that is perhaps weighing you down. Because Libra, you're moving into the 9 of Pentacles, which is self-sufficiency. That's what it says here in this card, self-sufficiency. I love this card. It's Venus in Virgo. You know, it's like a way of relating to your own sense of value that is very high. You know, like this is a recognition of your own self-worth to a level of like capability that leaves you completely self-sufficient. That doesn't mean you're alone by any means. It just means that you are able and feel capable of taking care of yourself. And that's what's really important. You know, like we need others. Libra is a sign that loves intimacy and needs to relate with other people. All signs need intimacy and to relate to other people. Okay, that's a basic human mammal need. We need each other. We just do. All right, we need each other for support. But there is also a level of self-sufficiency to be cultivated in terms of the ways that we handle our own emotions, so that we can take responsibility for ourselves instead of putting our emotions into the hands of others constantly. All right, and so there's this idea here that you going through this process of purging these old emotions that have been compartmentalized in your brain for so long, asking for help to bring this to completion. And like, once you feel this sense of completion, like, wow, okay, I'm free of this. They are now like, my mind space and heart space and internal energetic space is so much clearer now that I have been able to like ask for help and also do the work myself to free myself of the captivity of these difficult thoughts. It's like both treating yourself with the toughness, to use Hilma's word, which we could interpret as like the parentage of Saturn, you know, the loving parentage of Saturn, and also the tenderness, you know, it's like both, like tenderly parenting yourself through this process of releasing those emotions, bringing that to completion. And I think that gives you this sense of like pride, like, wow, I'm really proud of myself, you know, like I really worked through some really hard stuff just now in this, like, through this process, and it makes me feel more self-sufficient than ever. You know, like more capable of building my own little tower here, building my own safe haven, building my own support systems, which is so important, you know, in terms of like being able to fully rely on others. It's like we can more easily rely on others if we feel this sense of being able to rely on ourselves. That inner security, that inner sense of self-worth. And that's where we're going for here, Libra, with this process. So, you know, I said that I felt like I needed to pull another card out of the deck. And the card that came out here is the Nine of Cups. This is, the label here in this deck is happiness. This card often talks about emotional satisfaction and is displayed as, traditionally in the Smith Rider-Waite deck, it's displayed as like a person sitting cross-armed like this, very happy, very content, very proud of themselves, with all these 9 cups in a perfect row behind them. It's sort of like considered this like pinnacle of like emotional satisfaction. Like, I did this, you know? But in this card, it's being shown as much more messy, which I think is really the message that's coming through for you here, Libra. There's not this like neat, clean, perfect process of like, okay, great. So I'll just like take all the cups that are in a row and I'll just pour each one of them out, and then I'll put them back on the shelf nice and empty and ready to receive something new, and it'll be perfect. You know, like there's this perfectionism that's showing up that just really doesn't cut it here. It's first of all, it's an illusion. Perfectionism is a complete illusion. It does not exist. It does not exist. It is not real. Okay. And this is coming from a perfectionist here. All right. So we're all learning this together. But it's like, it's actually, you know, emotional satisfaction, happiness, contentedness, whatever, that process sometimes actually looks a whole lot messier. Sometimes the pendulum has to swing into extremes, states of extremity. This looks like a state of extremity to me that this person is in, just like absolutely indulging in complete, you know, you could even see this as like overindulgence, perhaps. But there's this like, the message of this is that the process is messier, and the pendulum has to swing all the way over here sometimes, and then all the way over here sometimes, like maybe all the way into that hardened space, and then all the way into that very super, super tenderoni space, and then like sometimes in the middle. And you know, it's not linear. It's incredibly cyclical. It is this like messy emotional process. Jupiter in Pisces. Pisces is an incredibly emotional sign. Jupiter expands whatever it touches. And so like this perhaps very emotional moment that you find yourself in, it's like both emotionally expansive in this really positive way and also emotionally expansive in like the sense of like there's too many emotions maybe. But that's happening, the messiness of that is happening so that you get to a point where maybe you ask for help. Help free me from these captive thoughts. And so then here's the process of releasing the thoughts that have been held captive and compartmentalized in the back of your being, your mental, emotional being for so long. And I'm telling you, it's bringing you this sense of satisfaction and completion and personal empowerment. You know, when you free yourself of the burdens of the 10 of Wands, there's this like lightness of being that follows. A sense of freedom of like, wow, I've been carrying heaviness for a really long time that I didn't even know I was carrying. And when you put that down, you just drop it. You know, again, which is not a linear process and not simple and involves, you know, perhaps quite a lot of what you would consider to be messiness, you who I'm picking up on, the Libras that this is resonating for. But once you go through this process of emptying out and freeing yourself, there's this just like feeling of real lightness. You know, this person is high up in the air where things are clear and lighter, and yeah, there's just this really beautiful sense of accomplishment and sense that you can depend on yourself in a way that you perhaps never even knew you could. Okay, Libra, lovely little reading here. So we're now going to take this into an extended reading where we'll use other decks to get more specific on what exactly this is. I want to unpack some of these captive thoughts. Like, what is the nature of this situation? What has led to this point where you are being asked now to go through this process of emotionally purging? How can you best put the burdens down? Like, what is the guidance here for the 10 of Wands? How do you bring this to completion? And then we'll get some clarity on the 9 of Pentacles also, like what this new sense of freedom and self-sufficiency means for you. Okay, so Libra, if that sounds like something that's interesting to you, stick around. There'll be a little preview of that extended reading at the end of this video, and if it's resonating, you can click the link in the description box below to take you to the extended reading on Vimeo. You can view that there instantly. Okay, I'm actually feeling like before we go, I don't normally do this, but I think I need to pull you another card even before we get into the extended reading, because I'm just like feeling this sort of ringing in my ears, and I think that's what it's trying to tell me. So we're going to use the Octospamen deck. Let's see, what is this last little bit of advice in this part of the reading here for Libra? You can't write it. Wow. Okay, reveal your innermost thoughts. I know. For as long as I've been working with cards, sometimes they really surprise me. Okay, reveal your innermost thoughts. Look at this. You're like, this is you, you're holding your own thoughts captive, holding them inside, keeping them close to your chest. It's like, no, Libra, express yourself, open yourself up, open your energy. That is how you transform. It's interesting too, because in a lot of these Octospamen cards, there's one snake. In this card, there's two, and they're sort of like intertwining through one another. This is part of an energetic awakening for you. This is part of like, those energies winding up the spine and leading to enlightenment, okay? Leading to a realization, again, in the mind space, the heads of the snake are above the head here, about the mental heaviness, mental emotional heaviness that perhaps has been actually holding you back for a really long time, okay? So it's part of this process of laying down the burdens is actually through revealing your innermost thoughts. It's through expressing yourself to others. I'm actually seeing that as well in the two snakes. It's like not just one snake going through this process alone, Libra. You don't have to hold all of this alone. Tell it to that other snake. You never know, because it might transform both of you, right? It might allow both of you to shed a skin. Maybe you have someone intimate in your life that you can speak to, a family member or a friend or a love, that you can share share your experience. Like, hey, I'm just really having these hard thoughts and a lot of this emotion is coming up for me right now. Just go ahead and speak your mind, speak your truth, speak your experience to this other person, and you'll be perhaps surprised at the way it unites you and transforms you both. Okay? That needed to come through. That message definitely needed to come through here for you, Libra. All right. So follow me over to the extended if that is something that feels right for you. I'll see you over there. If not, Libra, thank you so much for watching. It helps the channel grow if you click like on this reading. If you did indeed like it, subscribe to my channel. And I very much appreciate you being here. All right, Libra, take care. Libra energy wants to partner. It does. It wants to come into union with another. It wants to feel that sense of companionship and support in this, romantic bliss that we see here in the Nine of Cups. And I think that's what's perhaps trying to come in for you. Okay, at the very least, a sense of bliss within yourself, like greater emotional happiness and satisfaction within yourself, but perhaps in relation to another, because I really have been feeling that with this, like, reveal your innermost thoughts. And we've got the two snakes here. It's like maybe you have someone in your life or someone that is wanting to come into your life. But it's like you have to get comfortable revealing yourself if you're going to partner in this way. You have to get comfortable sharing your innermost struggles and your innermost heart, which is like super scary and vulnerable for a lot of us.